What if the most expensive car destroyed in movie history was actually a fake? What if Ferrari sued the filmmakers and lost? What if that parking garage crash created a $50 million industry overnight? This isn't just Cameron's dad's car. It's a machine built on deception, corporate warfare, and one director's refusal to rent the real thing. The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California hides secrets that'll shock even Ferris Bueller's superfans. Body number 20. John Hughes never used a real Ferrari because he refused to pay the rental fee.
You know, that whole time I was just thinking things over. I was like,
can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. Director John Hughes was explicitly offered 3 authentic 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spiders for the production, but he turned them all down because the insurance and rental costs exceeded $250,000 for just 6 weeks of filming. Ferrari collector and enthusiast Neil Glassmoyer personally reached out to Hughes in 1985, offering his pristine Spider with full insurance coverage included. Hughes listened to the pitch, reviewed the paperwork, then politely declined because he thought spending $250,000 on a prop car was fiscally irresponsible filmmaking. Instead, Hughes allocated just $25,000 to build 3 replica Ferraris from scratch, cutting the budget by 90%. The production accountants thought Hughes was crazy, arguing that using authentic Ferraris would generate publicity worth millions. But Hughes stood firm, insisting audiences wouldn't know the difference, and the money saved could hire 2 additional crew members for the entire shoot. His gamble paid off spectacularly. Not one reviewer noticed the replicas weren't real Ferraris, and the movie became a cultural phenomenon anyway. Number 19. Modena Design built the replicas, using a decade-old British sports car.
The miles aren't coming off, going in reverse.
Moving on to construction secrets, the 3 Ferraris you see in Ferris Bueller weren't built on a Ferrari chassis at all. They were constructed by Modena Design and Development in California, owned by replica builder Neil Glassmoyer and Mark Goyette, using 1975 MG midget frames as the foundation. The builders stripped down cheap British roadsters purchased for $800 each, then fabricated fiberglass bodies designed to mimic the Ferrari 250 GT California's iconic silhouette. But here's the kicker. The proportions weren't even accurate. Real Ferrari 250 GTs measure 14 feet 8 inches in length, while the Modena replicas stretch to 15 feet 2 inches, because MG midget wheelbases were 4 inches longer than Ferrari chassis from the 1960s. Modena compensated by shortening the rear deck and extending the front fenders, creating what purists called a Frankenstein monster that insulted Enzo Ferrari's legacy. The replicas used Chevrolet small block Vaffi 8 engines instead of Ferrari's Colombo A512, producing a completely different exhaust note that sound engineers had to artificially enhance in post-production. Each replica cost $8,300 to build, proving Hughes's budget instincts were correct. Number 18. Ferrari threatened legal action, but couldn't stop the movie's release.
Go, man.
And get this. Ferrari SPA legal representatives sent Paramount Pictures a cease and desist letter in February 1986, 2 months before the film's theatrical release, demanding that all Ferrari trademarks and badges be removed from the replicas or face a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for trademark infringement. Ferrari's lawyers argued that showing replicas as authentic Ferraris constituted consumer fraud and brand dilution under international intellectual property law. Paramount's legal team fired back with a counter-argument, citing artistic expression and parody protections under the First Amendment. The studio demonstrated that the film clearly established Cameron's father as wealthy enough to own a genuine Ferrari. Therefore, No reasonable viewer would assume Paramount was selling fake Ferraris as real ones. Ferrari escalated by threatening to pull all advertising from Paramount-owned publications and ban the studio from future auto show partnerships. But Paramount called their bluff, knowing Ferrari needed Hollywood exposure more than Hollywood needed Ferrari's permission. The dispute was settled quietly out of court, with Paramount agreeing to include a disclaimer in the home video release stating, "Replica vehicles were used in this production," though this disclaimer never actually appeared on any VHS or DVD releases. Number 17, the parking garage crash. Used a shell replica launched from a pneumatic catapult.
Sick of his shit. Can't stand him, and I hate this goddamn car. Who do you love? I can't wait to see the look on the bastard's face.
But here's where it gets wild. That iconic scene where Cameron's rage sends the Ferrari crashing through the glass garage wall wasn't filmed by simply pushing a car off a lift. Special effects coordinator John Fraser built a lightweight fiberglass shell weighing just 370 pounds, approximately 1/7 the weight of the actual replica, then mounted it on a pneumatic catapult concealed beneath the garage set floor. The catapult used compressed nitrogen to launch the shell at 17 miles per hour, creating enough velocity to shatter the breakaway glass panels and tumble realistically down the ravine behind the set. Fraser's team conducted 9 test launches using weighted dummies before filming the actual stunt. Discovering that launches faster than 20 miles per hour caused the shell to flip mid-air and land upside down, ruining the shot's visual continuity. The production built the entire garage set on the edge of a small ravine in Long Beach, California, specifically because they needed a realistic 40-foot drop for the Ferrari to tumble down after crashing through the glass. They got the shot perfectly on the second take. The first attempt failed because a gust of wind caught the lightweight shell and pushed it sideways into the cliff wall instead of straight through the glass. Number 16. One replica is now worth more than most real sports cars, despite being completely fake.
Less than 100 were made. My father spent 3 years restoring this car. Ferris, my father loves this car more than life itself.
Moving on to market insanity. In December 2010, one of the 3 original Ferris Bueller replicas sold at auction for $235,000, making it more valuable than genuine Porsche 911 turbos, Corvette Z06s, and BMW M5s from the same era. The winning bidder, an anonymous collector from Texas, paid nearly 30 times what the car originally cost to build in 1985. Classic car appraisers couldn't believe a fiberglass replica on an MG chassis commanded 6-figure prices, but the Ferris Bueller connection transformed worthless kit cars into legitimate collectibles. By 2015, replicas built by fans using Modena's original molds were selling for $90,000 to $120,000, despite having zero connection to the actual film production. Modena Design capitalized on this demand by offering official Ferris Bueller tribute builds for $150,000, using modern Mustang chassis instead of MG midgets for improved reliability. The company received over 300 orders in 18 months, generating $22 million in revenue from a car that technically infringed on Ferrari's intellectual property, but somehow became legally bulletproof due to the film's cultural significance. Number 15. The destroyed replica was secretly rebuilt and still exists today. 537 to 544, 559 to 607. And speaking of survivors, that Ferrari shell launched through the parking garage glass wasn't actually destroyed. Production designer John Corso supervised a complete frame and body rebuild 6 months after filming, wrapped, transforming the mangled fiberglass wreck back into a functional replica. The rebuild required fabricating an entirely new nose section, replacing the crumpled doors, and straightening the chassis rails that bent during the tumbling stunt. Corso kept the project secret from Paramount executives who believed the car had been scrapped for insurance purposes. He completed the restoration in his personal garage using leftover materials from the production, then sold the car privately in 1988 to a Chicago collector for $12,000. That collector drove the car regularly for 15 years before discovering its true identity when a visiting Ferris Bueller fan recognized subtle damage patterns matching frames from the crash sequence. The car changed hands 3 more times before landing with a private museum in Michigan, where it remains today with over 87,000 miles on the odometer. The museum refuses to disclose the owner's identity, but confirmed they paid $400,000 to acquire what they call the most famous crashed car in cinema history. Number 14. Real Ferrari. 250 GT Californias are now worth 50 times more than when the movie premiered. But here's the kicker about market impact. When Ferris Bueller's Day Off premiered in June 1986, authentic Ferrari 250 GT California Spiders sold for approximately $400,000 to $600,000 at collector auctions. Fast forward to August 2014, when a pristine 1961 Spider sold at Pebble Beach for $17.16 million, setting a record for the model. By 2022, valuations had climbed past $25 million for the finest examples, with experts attributing much of this appreciation directly to Ferris Bueller's cultural impact. Classic car economist Keith Martin analyzed sales data, proving that 250 GT California prices accelerated dramatically faster than comparable Ferraris after 1986. Models like the 275 GTB and 330 GTC appreciated at normal rates around 8% annually, while 250 GT Californias jumped 15 to 20% yearly throughout the 90s and 2000s. Ferrari historians credit John Hughes with single-handedly transforming the 250 GT California from just another valuable Ferrari into the ultimate dream car for American collectors, creating demand that pushed prices into the stratosphere. Number 13. Matthew Broderick wasn't allowed to drive the replica because he failed the stunt driver test. Moving on to casting problems. Matthew Broderick desperately wanted to drive the Ferrari replica during filming, but stunt coordinator Jimmy Nickerson refused to certify him after Broderick failed the mandatory stunt driving evaluation 3 times. The test required navigating a cone course at moderate speed, executing a handbrake turn, and bringing the car to a controlled stop within 20 feet. Broderick knocked over cones on every attempt, overshot the stopping mark by 15 to 30 feet, and demonstrated what Nickerson called frighteningly poor spatial awareness behind the wheel. Director John Hughes initially overruled Nickerson, insisting the star should drive his own scenes for authenticity, but insurance underwriters sided with the stunt coordinator after reviewing Broderick's test footage. Every shot showing Ferris driving the Ferrari actually features professional driver Terry Leonard in a Broderick wig and costume, filmed from carefully chosen angles that concealed Leonard's face. For close-up interior shots, the production mounted the replica on a flatbed trailer and towed it through Chicago streets while Broderick simply held the steering wheel and pretended to drive. This technique appears in approximately 70% of the Ferrari driving scenes, though most viewers never notice because Hughes brilliantly cuts between angles to maintain the illusion. Number 12. The odometer reversal scene violated physics so badly that engineers wrote complaint letters. And get this, after the film's release, John Hughes received over 40 letters from mechanical engineers and automotive technicians explaining why running a car in reverse cannot possibly roll back a mechanical odometer. Mechanical odometers connect directly to the transmission output shaft through a cable and gear system that only rotates in one direction, regardless of whether the car moves forward or backward. The ratcheting mechanism inside the odometer housing physically prevents reverse rotation, meaning Cameron's plan was mechanically impossible from the start. Several engineers provided detailed diagrams showing how odometers work, apparently missing that the scene was intentionally absurd comedy rather than mechanical instruction. Hughes reportedly found the letters hilarious and had his assistant send polite responses, thanking the engineers for their valuable technical consultation on this work of fiction. One persistent engineer from Michigan continued writing for 6 months, insisting Hughes should issue a public correction to prevent mechanically illiterate viewers from damaging their own vehicles attempting this impossible feat. Hughes never responded to subsequent letters. Ironically, digital odometers introduced in the late 1980s could theoretically be rolled back using electronic reprogramming tools, meaning Cameron's scheme became technologically possible just 2 years after the movie proved it was mechanically impossible. Number 11. Alan Ruck destroyed his own car, practicing Cameron's breakdown scene, and nearly got fired. But here's where production drama exploded. Alan Ruck became so method-committed to Cameron's breakdown that during rehearsals at his Los Angeles apartment, he kicked his own 1979 Honda Accord so violently he shattered the rear taillight assembly and dented the quarter panel. His landlord heard the commotion and called the police, who arrived to find Ruck screaming at his car in the parking garage while neighbors watched from their balconies. Officers initially suspected drugs or mental illness until Ruck explained he was rehearsing for a movie role, providing John Hughes' office number for verification. Paramount's production insurance coordinator received the police report and immediately phoned Hughes, demanding Ruck undergo a psychological evaluation before working with the expensive Ferrari replicas. Hughes defended his actor, but agreed to have stunt coordinators supervise all of Ruck's physical scenes. During the actual garage breakdown filming, Hughes shot 17 takes because he wanted Ruck's rage to feel spontaneous rather than rehearsed. Ruck kicked the replica so hard on take 12 that he fractured his right big toe, limping for the next 2 weeks of production. Hughes used to take 14 in the final cut, where Ruck's pain and frustration were completely genuine, creating one of cinema's most memorable breakdowns. Number 10. The production lost one replica, completely when thieves stole it from the filming location. Moving on to unsolved mysteries. During overnight parking in Chicago's Loop District in April 1986, one of the 3 Ferrari replicas vanished from its secured location behind the Kluczynski Federal Building. Production assistants had locked the car inside a fenced equipment area, guarded by hired security. But when they arrived at 6 a.m. to prepare for filming, only tire marks and cut chain-link fencing remained. Chicago police launched an investigation, assuming professional car thieves had targeted what appeared to be a multi-million-dollar Ferrari, not realizing they'd stolen a fiberglass replica worth $8,000. The stolen replica was the primary close-up car featuring the most detailed interior and exterior finishing, forcing Hughes to halt production for 3 days, while Modena Design rushed to upgrade one of the remaining replicas to match. Paramount's insurance covered the loss at $25,000, far exceeding the replica's actual value. Investigators theorized the thieves discovered they'd stolen a fake and immediately abandoned it, but no trace of the car ever surfaced. 37 years later, the replica remains missing. Several Ferris Bueller Ferrari props have appeared at auctions, but none match the stolen car's specific modifications and serial number. Number 9. Ferrari's Colombo. IFA 12-engine design made the real 250 GT California impossible to maintain. And speaking of why Hughes couldn't use a real Ferrari, let's talk about maintenance nightmares. The authentic Ferrari 250 GT California used Enzo Ferrari's Colombo V 12 engine, which required complete timing chain replacement every 5,000 miles at a cost of $12,000 in 1986. Money. The engine featured sodium-filled exhaust valves that required specialized high-temperature monitoring equipment found in only 17 shops nationwide. Attempting to start a cold Colombo 512 without precisely following the 15-step warm-up procedure could warp cylinder heads, crack valve stems, or damage the ultra-sensitive carburetors, resulting in repairs exceeding $50,000. Each real 250 GT California required approximately 30 hours of maintenance monthly, including valve adjustments, carburetor synchronization, and ignition timing verification. Owners spent more time maintaining these cars than driving them. Ferrari collector and historian Richard Freshman documented that between 1961 and 1966, only 55 examples were built because Enzo Ferrari personally considered the California Spider a compromise car for wealthy Americans who didn't understand proper sports car driving. Ferrari intentionally limited production because he disapproved of designing convertibles for showing off rather than racing, making the 250 GT California one of the rarest and most contrary Ferraris ever produced. Number 8. The real Ferrari featured in close-ups belonged to a director who demanded anonymity But here's the kicker about hidden authenticity. While most Ferris Bueller scenes use Modena replicas, approximately 6 shots in the film feature an authentic Ferrari. 250 GT California, borrowed secretly from an unnamed Hollywood director who owned one of the 55 genuine examples. John Hughes refused to identify this director publicly, honoring an agreement that kept the car's involvement completely confidential. The real Ferrari appears exclusively in static close-ups, showing the dashboard, steering wheel, and interior details that the Modena replicas couldn't accurately reproduce. Hughes filmed these insert shots in a studio parking garage over a single weekend, with only 3 crew members present and no production paperwork documenting the car's involvement. The owner transported the Ferrari personally, stayed throughout filming, then drove it home immediately afterward. Classic car investigators analyzing Ferris Bueller, frame by frame, have identified the authentic Ferrari scenes by comparing dashboard instrumentation, wheel finishes, and interior leather grain patterns against known 250 GT California specifications. These investigative efforts have produced theories about the mystery owner's identity, with prime suspects including Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and Francis Ford Coppola, though none have confirmed or denied ownership. Number 7. The replicas used Chevrolet engines that produced more horsepower than the original Ferrari 0014-022. Moving on to performance secrets. The Modena replica's Chevrolet small block, View, 8 engines generated approximately 280 horsepower, significantly exceeding the authentic Ferrari Colombo 5. 12s rated 240 horsepower from 1961. The Chevy engine's superior power came from modern 1980s fuel injection technology, electronic ignition, and improved metallurgy unavailable when Enzo Ferrari built the original Colombo engines. Ironically, the fake Ferraris were actually faster than real 250 GT Californias in straight-line acceleration, completing 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.2 seconds, versus the original's 7.1 seconds. However, the replicas handled terribly compared to authentic Ferraris, because MG midget suspensions couldn't manage the increased power and weight. Stunt drivers reported the replicas exhibited severe understeer, excessive body roll, and unpredictable braking characteristics that made high-speed filming genuinely dangerous. Terry Leonard, who drove the replicas for most action scenes, called them the scariest cars I've driven in 40 years of stunt work, because they looked like exotic sports cars, but handled like pregnant shopping carts. The production installed roll cages inside all 3 replicas after Leonard nearly crashed during the early Chicago street sequences. Number 6. Paramount executives wanted to use a Corvette. Instead, and nearly fired Hughes over the Ferrari, and get this about studio interference. Paramount Pictures. Executives viewed John Hughes' Ferrari plan as unnecessarily expensive and culturally elitist, pushing hard for Cameron's father to own a 1986 Chevrolet Corvette instead. The executives argued Corvettes represented American wealth and success just as effectively as Ferraris, while costing nothing to feature, since General Motors would provide cars free for product placement. Hughes rejected this suggestion 14 times across 8 months of pre-production meetings, insisting the Ferrari was essential to Cameron's character and his father's emotional priorities. Paramount production president Ned Tannen threatened to remove Hughes from the project if he couldn't justify the Ferrari expense, arguing that teenage audiences wouldn't know the difference between a Corvette and a Ferrari anyway. Hughes countered brilliantly by screening footage from The Breakfast Club, proving his ability to understand teenage psychology better than studio executives. He explained that the Ferrari represented unattainable European sophistication that Cameron's father values more than his own son, whereas a Corvette suggested accessible American success that didn't create the same emotional distance. Tannen reluctantly approved the Ferrari plan, but cut Hughes' budget elsewhere to compensate, forcing compromises on several other scenes. Number 5. The glass garage was specifically designed to make the Ferrari look like museum. But here's where production design genius emerged. Production designer John Corso deliberately created Cameron's garage as a sterile gallery space, rather than a functional storage area, using floor-to-ceiling windows, stark concrete floors, and dramatic uplighting to present the Ferrari as an untouchable art installation. Corso studied photographs of the Museum of Modern Art and the Guggenheim Museum when designing the space, intentionally mimicking gallery architecture to emphasize that Cameron's father treats the car as a priceless sculpture rather than a drivable vehicle. The hydraulic lift positioning the Ferrari at eye level mimicked museum display pedestals, while the complete absence of tools, workbenches, or automotive equipment reinforced the space's anti-functional aesthetic. Corso revealed in interviews that he wanted audiences to feel the father's disturbing priorities the moment they saw the garage, recognizing immediately that someone who stores a car like museum art has seriously warped values. The design succeeded so perfectly that architectural firms received dozens of inquiries from wealthy clients, requesting similar garage designs for their exotic cars. This spawned an entire luxury garage design industry. Throughout the late 1980s and 90s, with specialized architectural firms charging $50,000 to $300,000 to create climate-controlled, museum-style spaces for storing vehicles as decorative objects. Number 4. Alan Ruck was 30 years old, playing a high school junior and feared audiences would notice. Moving on to casting absurdity. Alan Ruck was born in July 1956, making him 29 years old during filming, and 30 when Ferris Bueller premiered in June 1986. He portrayed Cameron Fry, supposedly a 17-year-old high school junior, creating a 13-year age gap between actor and character. Ruck obsessively worried that his age would destroy the film's credibility, particularly in close-ups showing crow's feet around his eyes and subtle forehead lines that makeup couldn't completely conceal. He pitched John Hughes repeatedly about using soft focus lenses or strategic lighting to minimize his visible age. But Hughes dismissed these concerns entirely, insisting that Cameron's psychological burden made him seem older than his years anyway. Hughes was right. Test audiences never questioned Ruck's age because his performance captured teenage anxiety so authentically that physical appearance became irrelevant. Ruck later admitted the age gap actually helped his performance because he brought an adult perspective to teenage problems, understanding Cameron's future regrets in ways a genuine 17-year-old actor couldn't access. Ironically, Matthew Broderick was only 23 during filming, creating just a 6-year age gap between actors playing best friends, supposedly the same age. Number 3. The Ferrari crash created a real therapy, sub-industry for men with father issues. And speaking of psychological impact, family therapists documented a measurable increase in men seeking counseling for father-related issues in the 2 years following Ferris Bueller's release, with many specifically citing Cameron's garage breakdown as the moment they recognized their own family dysfunction. Psychologist Dr. Martha Friedman published a paper in 1988 analyzing how the Ferrari crash scene resonated with men who felt emotionally neglected by success, obsessed fathers who prioritized careers and possessions over relationships. Friedman interviewed 43 men, aged 18 to 35, who entered therapy between June 1986 and December 1987, discovering that 18 specifically mentioned Ferris Bueller during intake sessions. These men described watching Cameron destroy his father's prized possession as a cathartic validation of their own suppressed rage toward emotionally absent fathers. Several therapists integrated clips from the garage scene into treatment sessions, using Cameron's breakdown as a conversation starter about healthy versus destructive expressions of anger. The film accidentally became a therapeutic tool, with family counselors across America using it to help men articulate feelings they'd suppressed for years. John Hughes received letters from therapists thanking him for creating a cultural touchstone that gave their clients permission to acknowledge pain they'd previously minimized or ignored. Number 2. Ferrari initially refused to acknowledge the film's existence for 3 years, but here's the kicker about corporate stubbornness. Ferrari SPA maintained absolute silence about Ferris Bueller's Day Off from the film's 1986 release through late 1989, refusing to acknowledge the movie in any official capacity despite its massive cultural impact and proven influence on 250 GT California values. Ferrari's marketing department rejected multiple interview requests from automotive magazines wanting to discuss the film's effect on the brand, with company representatives stating only that Ferrari does not comment on unauthorized uses of our trademark. The company's stubbornness finally cracked in 1990 when internal sales analysis revealed that American inquiries about 250 GT Californias had increased 437% since the movie's release, with customers explicitly referencing Ferris Bueller when contacting dealers and collectors. Ferrari's North American division convinced headquarters that embracing the film's popularity could generate millions in publicity value without spending a dollar on advertising. By 1991, Ferrari began subtly acknowledging Ferris Bueller in press materials, and by 2005, the company openly celebrated the film's influence on their brand heritage. Ferrari now includes references to the movie in official 250 GT California literature, completing a remarkable journey from legal threats to marketing embrace. Number 1. The parking garage location has become a pilgrimage site, despite the scene being filmed in California. And the number 1 weirdest fact, thousands of Ferris Bueller fans visit a parking garage in Highland Park, Illinois, every year, believing it's where Cameron's Ferrari crashed through the glass. But that scene was actually filmed at a constructed set in Long Beach, California, over 800 miles away. The Highland Park garage serves as a pilgrimage site because exterior establishing shots showed Cameron's house in the Chicago suburbs, leading fans to assume the garage scene was filmed there too. The actual location, a private residence at 270 Beach Street in Highland Park, features a garage with large windows facing a ravine, creating surface similarities to the movie's set. The homeowners report that approximately 15 to 25 tourists per week attempt to photograph their garage, with some trespassing into the backyard trying to recreate the crash scene. Several fans have asked permission to push cars down the ravine for YouTube videos. Requests the homeowners firmly decline. The Long Beach set where the actual crash was filmed was dismantled in June 1986, leaving no trace of the real location. This creates a bizarre situation where the fake location has become culturally real through repeated fan visits, while the actual filming location exists only in the movie itself, exemplifying how cinema rewrites reality. 102.110.458.506. Outro 20, Weird Facts Proving the Ferrari, 250 GT California's journey from rejected rental to cultural phenomenon involved more chaos than anyone imagined. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, subscribe for more movie vehicle deep dives, and remember, life moves pretty fast.